Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so you've brought us some amazing material today. The very early sections of the Mahabharata. We're talking the Adivansavatarana Parva and the Sambhava Parva.
That's right. Think of it as the origin story, the setup for everything that follows.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really unpack this. Look at who actually compiled this epic story. Why, what were those, those very first seeds of conflict?
And what these early chapters reveal about the characters, their world, their connections to the divine even, it's all in there.
It really lays the groundwork. We get these accounts of sages, gods, asuras, early kings. It's all woven together. Divine intervention, curses, ambition. It's quite a mix.
It absolutely is. These sections are the foundation. They introduce the key players, human and divine, and the deep history behind the main narrative, like putting the pieces on the board before the game starts.
Right. So if you've ever wondered about where epic stories come from, how these characters came to be, or that blend of human and divine you see in ancient texts, this is definitely for you. We'll pull out the key threads.
Without getting totally lost in the sheer volume of detail, hopefully.
Let's try. Okay, so starting at the beginning, we have this figure, Saunaka, asking someone named Sauti to narrate the history composed by Vyasa. This is happening during some long sacrifice.
Yes. A common setting for storytelling and knowledge transmission in ancient India. Sauti confirms that Vyasa did recite something called the Bharata.
But Saunaka specifically asks for the Mahabharata, right?
Yeah.
The one that talks about the Pandavas' fame and was recited later after King Janamajaya's sacrifice. Is there a difference?
That's a great point. It suggests the epic might have, evolved. Perhaps the Bharata was an earlier, maybe shorter version.
Also composed by Vyasa.
Also attributed to Vyasa, yes. But the Mahabharata seems to be the grander, expanded version focusing on the Pandavas. It hints at how these stories grew through oral tradition, being retold and elaborated upon.
Okay, and then we get this description of Vyasa himself. This is fascinating. Born on an island in the Yamuna River?
Right, to a virgin named Kali, who later becomes Satyavati. We'll get to her, and the sage Parasara.
And apparently, he just developed instantly. Mastered the Vedas, all the histories, divided the Vedas into 4 parts.
Knew the past, cherished truth. The text really emphasizes his almost supernatural insight and wisdom right from birth.
And get this, he's the father of Pandu, Dhritarashtra, and Vidura. 3 absolutely central figures.
Exactly. So Vyasa isn't just the compiler or narrator. He's intrinsically linked to the lineage he's chronicling. He's both author and ancestor, in a sense. It gives the text this profound weight.
So, Vyasa and his disciples turn up at King Janamajaya's snake sacrifice. Janamejaya seems respectful and asks him straight up, why the split between the Kurus and Pandavas? What caused the Great War?
A very direct question. And Vyasa doesn't answer himself, does he?
No, he tells his disciple Vaisampayana to narrate the history as Vyasa taught him. Vaisampayana agrees, calling the Bharata interesting. He uses that term again, a story fit for a king.
And then Vaisampayana gives the initial reason for the conflict. What does he say?
He points to the Pandavas' skill, especially in archery, and their popularity. This made Duryodhana and Karna jealous.
Ugh, jealousy, a classic motive.
And it wasn't just passive jealousy. It led to active persecution, trying to poison Bhima, throwing him in the Ganges, snake bites. Pretty brutal stuff right from the start.
It establishes Duryodhana and Karna as antagonists driven by envy very early on. And it highlights Bhima's resilience or perhaps protection by fate even then.
And Vidura's role, too, he's mentioned as protecting the Pandavas, trying to mediate, perhaps.
Yes, Vidura consistently acts as a voice of wisdom and conscience, trying to steer things away from disaster, though often unsuccessfully.
Then comes the famous plot, the House of Lac. Flammable stuff.
A devious plan. And crucially, the text says Dhritarashtra, the blind king, knew about it.
Motivated by love for his own sons and wanting them to rule. That's quite an admission.
It shows the internal conflict within Dhritarashtra, his awareness of dharma, but his overwhelming affection for Duryodhana, a key element of his character.
Vidura warns the Pandavas, though. They're not caught completely unaware.
Right. They manage to escape by digging a tunnel, and then they burn the house down themselves, with the architect Purachana inside.
Turning the tables. Their escape leads them into the woods. This is where Bhima marries Hidimva, a Rakshasi.
A non-human being, often seen as powerful, sometimes demonic. And they have a son, Gatakacha.
Another important character later on. So these forest episodes aren't just filler.
Not at all. They're formative. The Pandavas live in disguise in Ekachakra. Bhima defeats another Rakshasa, Vaka. They're gaining experience, forging alliances like with Hidimva, and proving their strength even while in hiding.
Then they hear about Draupadi's Swayamvara, her choosing ceremony.
And they head to Panchala. This leads to another major event, obtaining Draupadi as their common wife.
Which is quite unusual in itself.
Highly unusual, and it becomes a source of both strength and complication later. They live there for a year, then return to Hastinapura.
And to avoid more trouble, Dhritarashtra and Bhishma suggest they take a different territory, Khandavaprastha.
Essentially an undeveloped piece of land. But the Pandavas transform it. They build a magnificent city, Indraprastha, their power grows, they conquer in all directions.
Bhima east, Arjuna north, Nakula west, Sahadeva south. They really establish themselves.
They do. But then, trouble again. Arjuna goes into exile for a time.
Right. And during this exile, he marries Subhadra, who is Krishna's sister, down in Dwaravati, connecting them to Krishna even more closely.
A very significant alliance. And then comes the Khandava forest incident. Arjuna and Krishna help Agni, the fire god.
By burning the forest down, wasn't it?
Yes, a controversial act even within the text, but Agni is pleased. And as a reward,
Arjuna gets the Gandiva bow, the inexhaustible quivers, the special chariot, huge power-ups.
absolutely pivotal. It marks Arjuna as the preeminent warrior, divinely equipped. Plus, they save an Asura named Maya from the fire.
Right, and Maya, in gratitude, builds them this incredible celestial-like assembly hall or palace in Indraprastha.
Which, of course, just fuels Duryodhana's envy even more when he sees it.
Leading directly to
The dice game. The fateful dice game. Masterminded by Sakuni, Duryodhana's uncle.
Yudhishthira gets drawn in, loses everything, the kingdom, his brothers, himself, even Draupadi. A disaster.
A complete catastrophe, leading to their 13-year exile, 12 in the forest, 1 in disguise.
And when they finally return after 14 years, ready to claim their share.
They're denied. Duryodhana refuses to give back even a needle point of land.
Which leaves no option but war.
And Vaisampayana sums it up. The Pandavas, being righteous, eventually defeat the Kurus, who fall due to their own disunity and unrighteousness, and regain their kingdom. It's a quick summary, but it covers the key events leading up to the war.
But Janamejaya isn't satisfied with just the what. He wants the why.
Exactly. He digs deeper. Why did the Pandavas, who are presented as virtuous, end up killing their own kin? That's a huge moral question.
And why did they suffer so much persecution? They were powerful. They could have fought back earlier, couldn't they?
He specifically asks about Bhima. Why did he control that immense anger for so long? And Draupadi, why didn't she unleash her own fiery nature after her humiliation?
Good questions. And why did the others follow Yudhishthira, even after the disastrous gambling?
And why did Yudhishthira himself, the embodiment of Dharma, suffer so much? Why did Arjuna, with Krishna, basically God as his charioteer, face such terrible trials?
These aren't just plot questions. They're getting at the core themes, aren't they? Dharma, suffering, free will versus destiny.
Precisely. It shows the Mahabharata isn't just an adventure story. It's a profound exploration of these complex issues. Janamejaya's questions are the audience's questions.
So how does Vaisampayana respond to this demand for deeper meaning?
Well, first he emphasizes the sheer scale and significance of the Mahabharata itself. He says its vast 100,000 sacred slokas composed by Vyasa.
100,000, wow.
And he makes some incredible claims about its power. Reading it, or even just hearing it recited, can lead you to the world of Brahman, make you equal to the gods.
He puts it on par with the Vedas.
Absolutely. He calls it holy, excellent, a Purana worshipped by rishis. It contains instruction on artha, wealth, success, and kama, pleasure, desire, but ultimately fosters a desire for moksha, liberation.
So it's a guide to everything in life, basically.
That's the claim. Reciting it properly can bring wealth, destroy sins, even serious ones like killing a brahmana. Hearing it brings kings victory. It's a sacrifice in itself.
He even recommends young monarchs listen with their queens for heroic offspring.
Yes. It's presented as the high science of dharma, artha, and moksha. The benefits listed are extensive. Obedient children, freedom from sin, no fear of disease or the afterlife.
As long as you listen without finding fault, apparently.
An interesting caveat, but the overall message is clear. Vyasa composed this epic, yes, to spread the Pandavas' fame, but also as a profound gift to the world.
Granting fame, long life, sacred merit. Causing it to be heard by Brahmanas brings inexhaustible merit. Studying it cleanses all sins. It's like the ultimate self-help guide and spiritual purifier rolled into one.
It really is presented that way. It contains accounts of gods, sages, deities like Kesava, Krishna, and Madhava, Shiva. It's a collection of all Strudis, all sacred knowledge.
Hearing even a single verse during a Sraddha ceremony makes the offering inexhaustible. That's powerful.
It destroys daily sins. Knowing its name's meaning cleanses sins. Its recitation purifies. Vyasa apparently took 3 years of intense devotion to complete it.
And hearing it means you're not affected by the fruits of your past good or bad deeds. That's a bold claim.
It surpasses even attaining heaven, apparently. Hearing it is equivalent to performing the greatest sacrifices, like the Rajasuya or the Ashwamedha horse sacrifice.
It's described as a mine of gems, like the ocean or Mount Meru. Gifting a copy is like gifting the whole earth.
And then the ultimate statement, whatever exists regarding virtue, wealth, pleasure, or salvation might be found elsewhere, but
What is not in the Mahabharata is not to be found anywhere, period.
it positions the epic as the sum total of all human knowledge and experience. A truly staggering claim.
Okay, so after establishing the epic's supreme importance, where does Vaisampayana go next? Does he start answering Janamekaya's why questions directly?
Not immediately. Instead, he seems to go back further, delving into the genealogies, the ancestry, setting an even deeper context. He starts with the tale of King Uparachara Vasu.
Uparachara Vasu, a Parva king, so in the lineage.
Yes, ancestor to the Kurus and Pandavas. A virtuous king, devoted to hunting initially, conquered Chedi on Indra's advice.
Indra again. Seems quite involved.
Very. Vasu later gave up arms, practiced severe austerities. So severe the gods got worried.
Worried about his power.
Exactly. They feared his ascetic energy might disrupt the cosmic order or perhaps grant him too much power. So Indra and the gods persuade him to stop his austerities and return to ruling.
Saying his job was to uphold virtue on earth.
Precisely. And as gifts for resuming his kingly duties, Indra gives him some pretty amazing things.
A crystal card that could fly.
And Indra's garland of unfading lotuses.
And a bamboo pole for protecting the honest.
Yes, and this pole becomes the focus of an annual festival in Indra's honor, supposedly started by Vasu. Indra himself, as a swan, accepted Vasu's worship and blessed the tradition.
And Vasu had 5 powerful sons who founded dynasties. His flying car earned him the name Uparichara, one who moves above.
Okay, makes sense. But then the story takes a slightly strange turn.
The river and the mountain. Suktamati and Kolahala.
Yes. The mountain Kolahala obstructs the river Suktamati out of, well, desire. Vasu intervenes, kicks the mountain away.
Freeing the river.
Huh?
And the river then gives birth.
2 twins, a boy and a girl, apparently conceived through her union with the mountain, or perhaps as a result of Vasu's intervention. The text is a bit ambiguous.
Vasu makes the boy his general and marries the girl, Kirika.
Okay. And then...
Then comes an even more peculiar incident. Vasu is out hunting, performing a ritual for his ancestors, but he's thinking about his wife, Kirika.
And the spring atmosphere affects him.
Yes, he becomes aroused, releases his seed. He instructs a hawk to carry it to Kirika.
A hawk. But another hawk attacks the first one mid-flight. The seed falls.
Where?
Into the Yamuna River. And it's swallowed by a fish.
Swallowed by a fish.
But not just any fish. It's an Apsara, a celestial nymph named Adrika, who had been cursed to live as a fish.
Right, okay, curses explain a lot in these stories. So, the fish conceives.
Apparently so. In the 10th month, fishermen catch the fish, cut it open, and find
Twins again?
twins again, a boy and a girl. The boy grows up to be King Matsya.
And the fish, Adrika.
Her curse is broken by giving birth, and she returns to her celestial form.
What about the girl born from the fish?
She has a distinct smell of fish. She's given to the head fisherman, who raises her as his daughter. She's named Satyavati.
Satyavati?
Yeah.
The same name as Vyasa's mother?
One and the same. This fish-born girl is destined to become the mother of the epic's compiler.
Wow. Okay, so Satyavati grows up working as a boatwoman on the Yamuna.
Yes. And one day, the great Rishi Parasara sees her and desires her.
The same Rishi who fathered... Oh wait, he hasn't yet. This is before Vyasa's birth.
Exactly. This is the encounter that leads to Vyasa. Parasara creates a fog for privacy. Satyavati is concerned, naturally, about her virginity and her fishy smell.
Understandable.
Parasara grants her 2 boons. She'll regain her virginity after their union, and her fishy smell will be replaced by a beautiful fragrance that can be detected from afar, hence her other name, Yajanagandha.
So, they embrace on an island in the Yamuna.
And Satyavati conceives and almost immediately gives birth to Vyasa.
Again, this instant development.
Yes, Vyasa is born with an innate inclination towards asceticism. He tells his mother he's off to practice austerities, but promises to appear instantly whenever she needs him and thinks of him.
A useful promise to have from your son.
Indeed. And he gets his names. Dvaipayana, meaning island-born, and Vyasa, the arranger or compiler, because he later organizes the Vedas.
And he teaches the Vedas plus the Mahabharata as the fifth Veda to his disciples, like Vaisampayana, who is narrating this very story to Janamejaya.
Exactly. It loops back beautifully. The narrator's origin is part of the narration itself.
Okay, so that covers Vyasa's extraordinary birth. Where does the text go next? More births?
Yes, it moves on to the origins of other key figures, really emphasizing the divine and fated aspects.
Like Bhishma.
Bhishma's birth is described born of the river goddess Ganga and King Santanu. He's explicitly called an incarnation of the Vasus, a group of celestial beings. Specifically, the Vasu named Dyaus, cursed to live a long life on Earth.
And Vidura. We heard Vyasa was his father, but there's more.
Yes, Vidura is identified as an incarnation of Dharma, the god of justice himself. He was cursed by a rishi named Animandavya, who was wrongly punished to be born in the Sudra order. So Vidura embodies righteousness, but is born into a lower social station due to a past cosmic event.
Fascinating. What about Karna?
Karna's birth is recounted born to Kunti before her marriage, fathered by Surya, the sun god. He's born with divine armor and earrings, marking his unique heritage.
And Krishna, of course.
The text clearly states Vishnu himself incarnated as Krishna, born to Devaki and Vasudeva for the good of the three worlds. His divine nature is stressed.
It's like a roll call of divine players taking human form. Satyaki Kritavarma.
Their origins are mentioned. Then Drona, not born from a womb, but from the seed of the sage Bharadwaja, preserved in a pot or vessel.
A pot? Seriously?
Seriously. And Kripa and his sister Kripi, born from the seed of the sage Gautama that fell onto a clump of reeds.
Reeds this time. Okay,
Yeah.
These are not standard births.
Not at all. Trishtadyumna, destined to kill Drona and his sister Draupadi, they emerge fully formed from a sacrificial fire Drupada performs.
Born from fire. And Sakuni.
Sakuni is mentioned as being born to King Suvala, Gandhari's father, but there's a hint he's connected to Dwapara, the spirit of the second to worst cosmic age, and cursed by the gods to be an enemy of virtue.
So his negative influence is preordained?
It seems so. Then, of course, the text reiterates that Dhritarashtra and Pandu were fathered by Vyasa through the widows of Vitatravirya and Vidura through a palace maidservant.
And the Pandavas themselves.
Their divine parentage is listed. Yudhishthira from Dharma, Bhima from Vayu, the wind god, Arjuna from Indra, king of the gods, and Nakula and Sahadeva from the twin Aswins, divine physicians.
And the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. Duryodhana and his brothers.
Born from Gandhari after a strangely long gestation, also involving Vyasa's boon, Duryodhana himself is linked to Kali, the spirit of the worst age. And his brothers are often associated with Rakshasas. There's also Yuyutsu, Dhritarashtra's son, by a Vaishya woman, who notably sides with the Pandavas later.
Abhimanyu.
Arjuna and Subhadra's son, explicitly called an incarnation of Archas, the son of Soma, the moon god, destined for a short but glorious life.
And the 5 sons the Pandavas have with Draupadi.
They are named and identified as incarnations of the Viswadevas, a group of celestial beings.
Even Gatotkacha gets another mention.
Bhima and Hidimva's son, yes. And Sikandan, born a daughter to Drupada, but later transformed into a male, destined to be he in Bhishma's downfall.
It's an incredible cast, and almost everyone seems to have some kind of extraordinary or divine backstory.
It really emphasizes that the conflict isn't just a human feud. It's woven into the fabric of the cosmos, involving gods, demons, curses, and destiny.
This leads naturally into the next section, doesn't it? The explicit discussion of incarnations.
Yes, it explains the why behind all these divine and Azuric births. It mentions Parasurama's campaign against the Kshatriyas as context,
Wiping them out 21 times.
leading to Kshatriya women conceiving with Brahmas to continue the lineage. Then it describes how Asuras, defeated by the gods, Adityas, started being born into royal human families.
Bringing their power and pride and oppressing the world.
Exactly. The earth becomes overburdened by these powerful, arrogant, Asura-born kings and their armies. She appeals to Brahman, the creator.
And Brahman's solution.
He commands the gods, Gandharvas, Apsaras, the celestial beings, to incarnate on earth themselves, to counter the Asuras, ease earth's burden, and restore balance.
So the Kurukshetra war is framed as a necessary divine intervention.
Pretty much. A cosmic cleanup operation playing out on the human stage. The gods consult with Narayana, Vishnu, and agree to descend into the lineages of sages and kings to fight the incarnated asuras and other negative forces.
And these incarnate gods are protected even as infants.
Yes, the text says the Danavas and Rakshasas couldn't harm them, even in their youth. Their divine nature shielded them.
Though we get these incredibly detailed family trees.
Oh, yes. Extensive genealogies tracing descent from Brahman's spiritual sons, Marichi, Atri, and Jaras, etc., from Daksha and his many daughters given to various sages and gods.
Aditi, Diti, Danu, Vinata, Kadru. Mothering the Adityas, the Daityas like Hiranyakasipu, the Janavas, Garuda, and the birds, Sesha and the Nagas. It's mind-bogglingly complex.
It is. We don't need to list every single name, but the point is this intricate web of relationships connecting everyone, gods, asuras, humans, animals, celestial beings, it maps the cosmic order.
It mentions the origins of the Rudras, the Vosus, key sages like Vrihaspati and Sukra, gurus of gods and asuras respectively, the Aswins, Lakshmi, even figures representing negative forces like Adama, unrighteousness, and his offspring Paya, fear, and Ridu, death.
And the origins of various animals and birds linked back to progenitors like Tamra, Kroda, Surabi, Surasa. It's a complete cosmology embedded in genealogy.
And then, after laying out the divine and azuric lineages, the text gets super specific about who incarnated as who.
Yes, this is where it connects the cosmic background directly to the human characters of the epic.
So asuras, like Viprachiti, became King Jarasandha. Hiranyakasipu became Sisupala. Samlata became Salya. Anulada became Trishtaketu.
Exactly. Many powerful kings who oppose the Pandavas are identified as specific asuras or Danavas. Vashkala as Bhagadatta, Kitumat as Amitajas, Swarvanu as Ugrasena. The list is long.
Even groups of asuras like the 5 from Kakaya or the 8 Kalayas are named as specific kings.
Yes, it populates the Kuru side, largely, with these reincarnated Azuric forces. Figures like Dantavakra, Rukmi, Ekalavya, Kansa, identified as the Asura Kalanemi.
It's not just asuras, though. Gods and other beings are matched up, too.
Right. Drona is explicitly a portion of Vrihaspati, the guru of the gods. Aswatamana is a composite being, born from parts of Mahadeva, Shiva, Yama, death, Kama, desire, and Kroda, wrath.
Quite a combination. Vishma, we already heard, was the Vasudyas. Kripa from the Rudras. Sakuni is Dwapara.
Satyaki and Kritavarma from the Maruts, storm gods. Drupada and Virata also linked to celestial tribes. Dhritarashtra's blindness is linked to his mother's fault and the Rishi's Vyasa's anger during conception.
Pandu is described as purity's self. Vidura, as we know, is Dharma.
Duryodhana is explicitly a portion of Kali, the destructive age. His brothers, the Rakshasas, sons of Pulastya.
Then the Pandavas, Yudhishthira from Dharma, Bhima from Vayu, Arjuna from Indra, Nakula and Sahadeva from the Aswins.
Abhimanyu as Varcha, son of Soma, with that specific condition from Soma about his short life on earth.
Trishtadyumna as a portion of Agni, fire. Sikandin as a Rakshasa. The 5 sons of Draupadi as of Vasudevas.
Even the key women, Kunti and Madri as portions of Siddhi, success, and Jariti, fortitude. Gandhari as a portion of Mati, intellect.
It's incredibly thorough, and the text says listening to this account brings all sorts of benefits: wealth, fame, long life.
It reinforces the idea that understanding these divine origins is key to understanding the epic and gaining merit from it.
Okay, so after establishing this huge cosmic backdrop and the divine azuric nature of the main players, the narrative seems to zoom back in, starting in the Kuru dynasty's story proper with King Dushmanta.
Yes, Dushmanta, founder of the Paurava line, he's presented as the absolute ideal king, powerful, ruling vast territories, including Mlecha lands, those outside the standard Aryan culture.
And his reign is described as a utopia almost. No mixed castes, land producing abundance on its own, no sinners, no fear of thieves, famine, disease.
Everyone sticking to their dharma, timely rains, fertile land, truthful brahmanas. It's a picture of perfect harmony and righteousness, a golden age.
He's incredibly strong, lifts mountains, skilled in combat and riding. Compared to Vishnu, the sun, the ocean, the earth, in his virtues, loved by everyone.
He sets the benchmark. This is the ideal from which things will eventually decline, leading to the conflicts of the epic. He's the righteous ancestor.
So this paragon of virtue, Dushmanta, goes hunting one day.
With a huge army, all kinds of weapons. The description is very vivid, the noise of the procession, women admiring him.
He enters a wild forest, teeming with game, and he's a formidable hunter, taking down lions, tigers, elephants, deer with various weapons.
The forest is disturbed, animals flee. He's displaying his kshatriya prowess, his kingly power over nature in a way.
But then, tired from the hunt, he enters another forest. This one is different.
Yes, this one is beautiful, peaceful, filled with ascetic retreats, pleasing sounds, flowers, gentle breezes, a stark contrast to the hunting ground.
He finds a sacred river, the Malini, and near it, the hermitage, the ashram of Rishi Kasyapa, who's also known as Kanwa.
A place of great spiritual power and tranquility, Dushmanta feels drawn to it.
So he decides to visit the Rishi. He leaves his army, his royal entourage, behind.
He approaches with just his minister and priest, entering the hermitage respectfully. The text says he forgot his hunger and thirst just being there.
The asylum itself sounds amazing, like the realm of Brahman, filled with chanting brahmanas, experts in Vedas, rituals, sciences.
It's depicted as a center of immense spiritual learning and practice. Dushmanta is deeply impressed by the atmosphere and the respectful welcome he receives from the ascetics there.
And this visit, this entry into the sacred space, is clearly setting up something important. The encounter with Sakuntala, presumably.
Exactly. This transition from the kingly hunt to the reverent visitor at the hermitage leads directly to the next crucial phase in the Parva lineage.
Okay, so let's pause there for today. Key takeaways from this deep dive into the Mahabharata's beginnings. It's a world absolutely permeated by the divine. Extraordinary births, curses, boons, gods, and asuras walking the earth in human form. It's all interconnected.
And this interconnectedness, these complex lineages and divine interventions, they aren't just background color. They actively shape the characters' destinies and the unfolding conflict. The seeds of the Kurukshetra war were sown long before, in cosmic battles and fated births.
The story of Dushmanta provides that ideal starting point, the righteous king, before we delve into the complexities and moral ambiguities that follow. His venture into the forest clearly signals a new chapter.
I think it's really striking is the incredible detail in these origin stories, especially the specific mapping of celestial beings to human characters. It suggests a universe where destiny, karma, and divine will are incredibly powerful forces. That's something to keep in mind as the story progresses.
Definitely. And the contrast is already there, isn't it? The idealized rule of Dushmanta versus the jealousy and plotting of Duryodhana. Even in these early accounts, the central conflict of dharma versus adharma is established right away.
Absolutely. So, thinking about all this, what stands out most? Is it the idea of gods and asuras literally walking among humans as kings and warriors?
Or maybe the figure of Vyasa born miraculously, compiling the ultimate text and being the ancestor of the main characters. That's quite a role.
Perhaps it's the power attributed to the text itself, the Mahabharata, as a source of merit and liberation. Or the symbolism in those unusual births from pots, reeds, fire.
Lots to ponder. The significance of the forests, the hermitages, the curses that shape destinies. This dive has really just opened the door. There's so much more within this epic.
A vast ocean, as the text itself says.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the Mahabharata origins.
Thank you.